everyone, welcome to Brenda's Brush Strokes and Bisque painting tutorial for our September Monster Mania box. Today we're working on our mummy, and I have the finished one, and I have this, the other one has been base coated black with our Duncan OS 476, and it's just one layer of black paint brushed on with the nylon painting brush, and then let it dry. I like to let it dry a couple hours or even a day before I do my dry brushing, because then the dry brushing just adheres to the paint, the base coating better. So I have a boar bristle brush, artist paintbrush size 5, and I just touch into my charcoal, which is my Duncan OS 475, and then I brush it out on my paper towel, and then I brush back and forth, up and down, across any texture that the bandages have created on our mummy. And you want to start in one area and then just work your way around your piece, letting what you just did dry. We'll get his front, and it's okay if you get some on the vest. We'll actually be doing that with our rust and our orange. But first we're going to do our bandages. And we'll just work our way around here. And also do the bottom. Anytime you're painting, you want to finish your bottom so they look as good as the rest of it. So I need a little more of our charcoal. And again, I'm just touching the edge of my brush in my charcoal and then brushing back and forth on my piece, building up my layer of charcoal. And you don't want to do it all at once. You want to build it up so you have nice soft coloring. If you're working with the 4-Hers, the judges do judge the bottom, so make sure you do teach them to finish their bottoms, and it just makes your piece look more finished anyway. So I'm just working my way around. I've turned him to the back now, and I'm brushing up and down. It's okay if I get a little bit on the vest. We'll cover that up with the rust. Again, I'm changing my brush direction depending upon the direction of the bandages to keep that gray out of those crevices, because we want those crevices to stay black so we have our nice shading going on. And I'm just working my way around, going up and down. When I get to where the two legs meet, even though the bandages are going the other way, you kind of have to go both directions here, but you do leave the black down in that deep part there. Otherwise, I'm just going up and down, working my way around. Go back and touch up here and there. You want a nice even coat of color. You don't want it light in some areas and heavier in other areas. You want pretty much the same even coverage of your charcoal all the way around. So now I've actually met up with my front of him on the bottom half here. So now we'll turn him around and do our top half. And we'll let that bottom half dry, and then we can always come back to it and get more on it if you want more on it. So you can leave as much or little black coming through the charcoal as you like. Everyone has different preferences of how much black shading they like coming through. I do like to let some of the black coming through the little X's that are on the bandages. And we'll just turn him around here and get to his back. So I don't want it as with the solid charcoal, because I do want that black coming through my piece, so that's what's giving our shading to our piece. It gives it more dimension. I'm just brushing across my textures here, building up that charcoal. Changing my brush direction as I do it, depending upon the area where the bandages are. And we're just working our way right around. So underneath his little chin there, that would be darker, so you don't want to fill all those crevices in. We want to look at him from the top down and get the top as well. If it's paint is coming on really shiny and wet, or have too much, you need to brush it out with your paper towel some. So it's more of a dry brushing, adding the color with a dry brush and just building it up, which gives you your nice soft shading. So now we have him basically base coated all the way around with our gray, but now I can see there's more black here and more gray here, so we want that more even. So I want to come back and touch up any areas and just have a nice even coat of that charcoal on there and not have it looking splotchy or blotchy. So we'll just start with our front again and work our way right on around. Just like before, still going across your textures, your lines that are created in the mold when they're made to make your shape of your piece. And I just want it a nice and even charcoal. I don't want lots of black in one spot and lots of gray in the other spot. I just want it nice and even. Always check your bottom and grab just a little more of our charcoal. Again, touch it on my brush, brush it out on my paper towel. Want to look underneath his elbows and make sure you get those. And you just keep brushing back and forth and building up that charcoal color until he's as charcoal as you want him, with as much black left in the crevices as you want. I leave about probably 90%, or not, I probably cover up 90% of the black and leave about 10%. So that might help you to understand how much of the charcoal to put on there. You're just using the black for shading at this point in the crevices to help bring out your detail. And we'll work our way back around one more time, so we have a nice even coat of the charcoal all the way around him. And it's okay if it's up on his vest, that rust will cover that up. And there we go. We got him looking pretty even with the charcoal color. Now it doesn't, we don't have that black line right through there and then the gray on both sides of it, so that's what we wanted, a nice even coat of our charcoal. So from our charcoal, we are going to go to our OS 567 Duncan Ash. So when you're deciding what colors to use, I like to use 3 colors. So I have a dark value color, a medium value color, and a light value color. And so now we are at our medium value color, which is our ash, our 567. And we'll give that a little shake and we'll get a little puddle. And I'm going to use my same dirty brush because it already has the charcoal in it. That's why I call it a dirty brush. I'm not picking up a clean one. And I will just dab into my ash, brush that out on my paper towel and work that in there. So now we'll have a nice gradual change of color from our charcoal to our ash, and we will dry brush less of the ash than we did of the charcoal because we want to leave some of that charcoal down for our shading from the black to the charcoal and now to the ash. And again, we're just brushing up and down, going across any little texture spots. Make sure you get the bottom. And I'm just brushing lightly. I'm not beating down and bearing on my brushes. It's just goes on real nice with these brushes. So we're just giving the next shade of color. And we'll just work our way all the way around him. Just like with the charcoal, we're going across any of the little texture areas. So on the face we have the bandages going in all the different directions, so just do your best to go across. You just kind of have to change your brush direction. And you just keep grabbing your ash and working around. Grab a little ash, brush it out. And we'll just build that up a little bit, letting our black and some of the charcoal remaining. That's what's going to give us our shading. So now that was a kind of a heavy wet load there, so I'm just brushing that out. I had brushed on my paper towel to brush it out a little more. Usually that first coat of color takes more than the next two. These are more of a highlighting buildup of color. Once you get to your medium and light colors. And we just keep, so that was a little heavy again, so I just brushed it out on the paper towel some more. And then brush it out to get a nice even color on him. And we got to come back and get the back of his head. So I do like to use the grays before the final white. It just helps give your piece more, you have those light, medium, and dark shades of color, so it's going to give your piece more dimension, more shading. And we need a little bit more. So just keep brushing it out here. And he's just about got what he needs, so we just want to lick him over again. And again, you want it nice and even, you don't want it blotchy and spotty. So we're just going to brush one more layer on him, I think. Get him just a little bit lighter. Get a little more on the bottom to bring that to an even shade. And we're just going to brush a little more on. Again, this is our ash color. I'm just brushing across any texture to bring up the next shade of color. Make sure we get the top of the fingers, top of the head. You want to turn him upside down and get underneath the elbows and the under part of his hand there. Same on this other side. So I'm just brushing my charcoal, getting on the undersides of my elbows and my the feet and the head here, just to bring that color up. And from there we can go to our Duncan OS 474 gray, and we'll shake that up, and now we'll put even less of this on so we can save our other shaded colors. And again, I'm just grabbing my dirty brush that already had the gray in it, because we're still in that same color family. We don't need to change to a whole new brush. And again, I'm just going to brush back and forth or up and down across those textures. And I'm brushing real light just to build up that color again. And I'm doing it more in the center, so that would leave my, we have our gray, and then we kind of have some ash, and then we have our charcoal as it gets closer to the black. So you want it lighter where the more light is hitting him, so it would be like through his belly here, through the high parts of his leg, and then you're going to let it get darker as it goes to the center of his legs, because that would be shading it, because the light, that's a deeper area, so there would be less light getting in there, and more light on the high areas, such as the top of his hand here and the top of his head. You'll have more of your gray in those areas where more light would be hitting it. Just keep going around here. So you can see I have more gray right here, but then we get our ash and our charcoal in there. We kind of leave that there. We don't take the ash, the gray all the way to the center of the legs because we want those darker colors where that would be darker. So now we have the top of his foot, and more light would be hitting that. So we're going to have that lighter with more of our gray on there. And we'll come up his leg here and just keep working our way around. And again, we'll have the top of his hand. It's going to have more light hitting it, so we're going to have a lot more of the gray on there, and then as we get away we'll have less, because that light would be hitting up here more and then less on the side because it's hitting at a side angle, where on the top of the hand it would be hitting directly right on. Same with the little bandage right there. And then kind of through his arm, it's going to be through the middle more, and then you'll let your charcoal and your ash as it goes towards where the arm is meeting your vest, because that would be darker, there would be less light hitting that. Same with his legs back here, we'll have more through the high part and less as it goes towards the inner part where the legs meet. And we'll go across his bottom here. And you do still want this nice and even. You don't want to have a lot here and less here. So I can see there's more here, but there's less here. So I do want to build the side up to meet that side so it is more even. And again, right through the center of his arms, you're going to get more. And then let the charcoal and the ash go towards the vest with the black, so that's giving you your nice shading there. And we'll get the top of his head here, and you kind of got to change directions because the bandages are going in different directions. And now the very top would have a lot more than as you come down, because this is going underneath, so then there's going to be less light under there, so you're going to have less of your gray down there. You want a little bit, but a lot less. And you still want it to look even, so you'll have a even coverage, only less coverage. You won't have like a lot of the gray here and then none and then a lot. You'll still want it like a lot and then gradually a less as you go down to where it's shaded more. And you just keep turning him and getting him with our gray. Again, getting more up on top because there's more light up there. And we'll keep working our way around here. Again, more on top of his hands because the light's going to be hitting this more, and then this is going to be shading this area, so it's not going to be as light underneath there. And the hands are going to be brighter. And you have where the arm and the vest meet, so that's going to get darker as it gets closer to that, where those two areas meet. I'm just going to get more right on top here, because again, that's where all that light's going to be hitting it. And then again on his face. And this is just our OS 474, our gray. So if you would have used like the navy underneath there, or the purple or the green, you would have more of that hue coming through now instead of the black, which can be kind of neat too, especially if make it look more like a nighttime kind of a eerie scene, I guess. So now I have him all the way around, but I want to just check him over again, because now I can see I missed here and missed here, so you do want to go back and look at your pieces. So again, the light would be hitting this quite a bit, so we'll have that lighter. And the vest is shading the bottom of that first layer of bandages, so we don't want that real bright either. The light's going to be hitting the top of that foot, so we do want that lighter. So you do just want to think about where the light hits something. If you have trouble understanding that, you can shut the light off and get yourself a flashlight and hold the flashlight over your piece, and you'll see right where the light hits it the strongest and where it's more shaded. So that you may find that helpful. So we're just going to get a little more, build this up just a little bit more. Get his face a little lighter because there's lots of high spots on there, and the light would be hitting that, especially the top of the head here, like if the moon was shining in on him. And then we'll just work our way around one more time. And that was a little heavy, so we'll just brush that out. Make sure you get the bottom a little, just to keep building up that color on the bottom, so it all goes together and looks finished. So I'm coming around the back, but again, I'm doing more through this high part. I'm not going down in the crevice between the legs. It's more on the high parts where the light would be hitting it. So using those 3 shades of color, your light, medium, dark, helps give you that shading of colors like that. Okay, so I have it darker here under his chin because that would be making it darker there, so we kind of more through the middle here. And then it's darker here where the 2 legs would meet again. It's darker under his arms because there would be less light under there. Lighter on his head because a lot of light would be hitting there, and lighter on the top of his hands and the top of his feet because that's where a lot of the light would be hitting. So from there you could leave him, although I like to add a little bit of white. So we're going to go with our OS 431 white. Give that a good little shake. And you just need a little puddle. And again, I'm going to use my same dirty brush. I'm going to grab me a new piece of paper towel. And I'm just going to touch into my white and work that in the brush a little bit. And that'll give us our gradual change to our white and not a stark white. So now I want to think about where the light would really be hitting him, and I want to get that with the white. So that's going to be the top of these feet, his little bandage that's hanging out here, a little bit right through the center of his legs. So we're leaving all of our gray colors there that are further away. So you can see I have my white, then you have your shades of your gray and your ash and your charcoal and your black. Get him through his belly here where the light would be hitting him really good. And again, the front of his legs, this bandage. And the front of this foot. And again, take just a little bit onto the bottom just to build up that color down there too, instead of leaving it that black. And we'll get the top of his hands because a lot of light would be hitting that. And I'm just brushing across, brushing real lightly, not brushing hard. Right through the center of his arms. Kind of letting my grays do my shading as you get away from the center. Get the little bandage here because it's kind of hanging out there in the light. And then of course his head would have quite a bit of light hitting it too, more up here on the top and less as you get to where the neck is because that would be giving us some shade. So we're just brushing back and forth here quick. And I kind of let one area dry and come back to it just to build up my white. And you can just keep working your way around. Grab a little bit. If you get too much, brush it out. Make it look more even. Again, right through the center top of those legs with that white, because that's where that light would be hitting it the most, and then shade it as it goes in between the legs. And our little bandage here sticking out would have a lot of white on it because he's like just out there all by himself, and the light would just really hit that. A little bit on the middle part of the arms here. Not so much under there, but just a little bit of the white, just to bring that color down. Same with his arm in the front, but again, more on the top of those fingers because that's where the light would really be hitting it. So you do want to kind of think about where the light is hitting your pieces when you're dry brushing them or painting them. So I'm not going to put much under here because that would be in the shade and in the darkness, so we don't want that real white under there. And then that's just going to give him more dimension when you're finished with him. I'm getting my tops of my feet pretty white just because a lot of light would be hitting that. Same with his little belly here and his other foot. And we want to get this face some more because that's just out there, and if it's the moonlight or the light, it's going to be hitting this top a lot, so you don't want a whole lot of the darker gray. You want more of the white on top. And we'll just keep brushing until you get him the shade of white that you want him. And you just keep going around and building up your color a little bit at a time, letting it dry from one side to the other as you work your way back around. His little shoulder here would probably be pretty white because the light would be hitting that. Well, there's kind of a glob right there, so we want to just even that out a little bit. And we'll just give it a little more white, and that'll do that. And kind of get his fingers over here on the other side. And then this bandage here would be fairly white too because it's just hanging out there and the light would hit it. And again, the top of his head's going to be whiter than the bottom part where the neck meets. So there he is. He's looking pretty good. We got him all good shading on him and looking like he's got some white bandages. And then I usually like to just look at it again. So it's kind of a darker gray right there, so we'll build that up just a little bit. And on the top of his head, I'm looking from the top down, as if the light was shining right on him there on top. Get a little more on his nose because the light would be hitting his nose. Okay, so now we have our white on there all good. You can see we have the white and then we have our grays. It gives us shading right up to our vest. So we'll put that brush aside and then we'll take a look at him. So our next color will be our rust and our orange. So I am using our Doc Holliday DH28 rust. Duncan also has a rust, but we had started our boxes with the Doc Holliday rust, so we'll use that till it's gone. So now I don't want to use a huge brush for this little vest. I would get rust all over. I don't want to use this little bitty one. It would take forever. So we're probably going to go with the next size up. This is a size 3, and I do have the flat so that I can turn it on its edge to work my color up to my bandages. So again, this is just a boar bristle natural hair brush. It's artist paintbrush size 3. I'm going to touch into my rust and brush it out on my paper towel. Now I do have a clean brush because I changed to a completely different color. And we don't have a lot of texture on his vest, but where we do, we're going to brush across it, like his little pockets here, so we can leave the black around it for our shading. And we'll grab some more. And now you'll want to do little strokes. You don't want to do a big back and forth strokes and get rust all over your mummy. I tend to start away from my the inside where the arm and the vest meet, and I'll start away from it and work over to it, and that way I can see right where my rust is going, and I will leave a little bit of black down that crevice there. So where I have a big area, I can go a little bit bigger with my strokes, but when I come back up here to this little area, I just start away from it and do little comma or C strokes and start away and just work over towards it, and I can see right where my rust is going without getting it all over my bandages, and I'll just work my way right around. And I'm just grabbing a little bit. Here my vest is up high enough over my bandages I can brush towards me. If you do get the rust on the bandages, you can go back and try to touch that up a little bit. But I'm just brushing real lightly, trying to let that black down in that crevice, going across the pocket. And then just work my way back up the other side and just keep working the rust until you have all the white and the grays covered up that got on the vest. But if you just do small little strokes and take your time, you can work that rust onto that vest without getting it all over your bandages. So now we'll do the same thing on this side. I just start away from the vest and I'm doing little 1/2 inch strokes, and I slowly get to the vest, and now I can see that my rust is right there where that crease is, where the vest and the bandages meet. And we'll just do that the whole way here, work our way all the way around, because if I make these big strokes, I'm going to have rust all over my bandages, and we don't want that, because then we'll have to come back and try to touch up all that shading. Now I did get a little bit on that one, so I will have to do that one later. Sometimes with talking I lose control of the brush there. I'm just working my little bitty strokes right along the edge of my vest, just covering up the white and the grays that got on the vest, leaving the black down in the crevice there. Touching very lightly, not to beat it down in there. We're letting this side dry so we can come back and add another layer, another coat of it. And we'll do the same thing on this arm, and we can brush back and forth across our pocket there. And we'll just keep working our way around. So now we're under the arm. I'm actually, instead of doing the wide part of my flat brush, I'm going to turn it on its side, just to get that little bitty area there and not get his whole arm full. And we'll just keep working our way around. So the vest is higher than his bandages, so I can brush just a little bit. I'm brushing in instead of starting from the inside and brushing out. If you're real careful, you can just get it on the edge of that vest and cover up that grays and blacks and the white. And again, I have it turned on its side so I can get in that little bitty area there. And I'm just brushing really lightly, and that color will gradually build up without getting it all over your piece. So we'll turn him again, and now we'll start away. So now where this vest and the arm meet, this arm is really over the vest, so we can't brush from the edge out. So we're going to start from the inside and work out to the edge. And that way we won't get that rust all over those bandages. Where the little creases here, we will go across it, but I will start away from it and work up towards underneath the arm here. And it's just little 1/2 inch strokes is all I'm doing, just to build up that color. And I'm just going all the way around first. Again, I'm starting away and working up to where the bandages and the vest meet, leaving some black between the two for shadowing and shading. And I'm just grabbing a little bit of rust at a time. I don't want it real wet. And brushing it out. Again, I have room. I can brush across my texture here on both sides where the little sewing seam is in your vest. But then I come back up here to the neck and start away from it and work up to it. And I'm just doing those little C strokes as if you were writing the letter C. And we're just going to work our way around. Just letting that black right where the two meet. And we're right back to our little skinny bottom area there. So we'll just, I do like the little, that's way too wet, so I got to brush that out. Now I can brush that out. I do like the C strokes on the little smooth areas, so the vest is really smooth. It kind of blends that color right down into the black. So I do like to put rust under my oranges and my reds. It helps bring those colors up better, or it can take a lot of coats to get them sometimes, most times. So now we have our whole vest coated with our rust, but we can still see black through it, and we want more of an even coverage, otherwise our orange will be spotty like that. So we're just going to build up our rust a little bit more. And now the front has dried, so now it'll take more paint without smearing. And again, I'm just making my little strokes along the edge, going across the pocket there where I can. And we'll come along the front here, get rid of that white that's right along the edge. But build up that rust so it's nice and even, so our orange will be nice and even. And we'll grab a little more. And there's not much black left on the vest. It's mainly in the crevices. So mainly between the arm and the vest and the bandages, with more rust covering the middle of the vest and not with black coming through, because you're really just using that black to shade the crevices. And we'll come to the other side and do the same thing. I'm just doing little bitty C strokes right along the edge of his vest there to cover up the white that got onto the vest. And again, I'll work my way around, leaving that black between the arm and the vest, but getting the black on the vest pretty much covered up with the gray, or the rust, I'm sorry, so we can get our orange on there. But leaving that black between the bandages and the vest gives us our shading to our piece. And we'll turn it on our side here to get underneath his arm, because there's not much room there. So if I went with it the whole width, I would have rust on bandages on the top and the bottom. But if I turn my brush on its side and lightly brush, I can just get that little area that I need that's there. And we'll work our way right up his arm here. So again, I don't want to do these big strokes, because then we'd have rust all over our bandages and we'd have to go back and touch that all up. And you may have to touch it up a little bit, but you don't want to have to touch it up a lot. So I just start away from it and work towards it. Start away, make little C strokes and work your way up to it. You can see right where your wet paint is going, and that way you can leave that little bit of black shading where the head and the vest meet. And we'll start at the bottom down here and do the same thing. Just work our way right up, have a nice even line of black between the arm and the vest, with a good coverage of rust on the vest, with hardly any black coming through except where our creases are under his arms and where the vest and the bottom meet. And you just keep building it up. Just little C strokes, and that'll build up those smooth surfaces. You can brush back and forth if you want. I just like the little C stroke. It kind of just blends it right into that black paint on the smooth surfaces. So we're just brushing away here, building up that rust so we can get ready for our orange. So I'll come back to my front and do it one more time, just so it's nice and even. You can see it's a little bit pale right there. You can still kind of see the black through it. So we just want to build up our rust a little bit more right there. And I have to grab a little bit more in my pile. And so we're kind of spotty here, so we need to build that up a little more. We can still see black through here, so we're just gonna build up our rust a little bit more on the back as well. And we just want to keep going with our little strokes so we don't get that rust all over our bandages. And we'll get some more through the middle here where it's kind of spotty. So as you go from the front to the back, that lets each area dry, and then when you try to add more paint, it'll take it. Otherwise it's going to be wet and it's just going to keep smearing and not actually taking the paint and giving you a nice even coverage. So now that's looking pretty even and smooth. So now our, if you want, I did put blood stains on this guy in a few spots, so we'll do that again with the rust, because I do like the rust underneath my red, so I'll just pick a few areas here and add some rust. Let's see, we did the top of the toes and the head. Another one right here, and we probably do one in the back as well. And so you just get some rust on there, and we'll come back and check our rust on our vest. And from there we are going to go to our hot orange, which is our OS 439 hot orange. And we'll just need a little bit. And we'll use our same dirty brush because it's in the same family. Grab some, brush it out. Get a nice dry brush. And now we'll go over our rust just like we did with the, we're going to use the hot orange to go over the rust. We'll do it the same way. That rust just helps bring out that orange better, so you don't need so many coats of it. And we'll just be careful right along our edges just like we did with the rust. You could do these in green or purple, whatever color you wanted your little vest. I just thought the orange was a nice little Halloween color. So we'll get a nice layer of hot orange on here. And again, I'm just doing them little strokes. So we have a little area and we don't want to get the bandages all full of our orange. Go across the pockets. And turn it on its side. Keep your brush on its side to get underneath his arm here. And we'll do the same little strokes on the edges here. Brush across the seam there. And we can brush right through the middle here with those little C strokes. And we got to turn it on its side to get in this little crevice down here. Brush across that seam line. And we almost got our orange on. Bring it right down to the edge. So we'll go on the front and get one more layer. Kind of right through the center part. We kind of let a little bit of our rust and then our black, because that gives our vest some shading as well. And just use those little strokes to keep the orange off of your bandages. So I do not put the orange on the rust that's on his bandages, because we'll put the red on there for the blood. So we'll just leave those with the rust till we get to them, but since our brush was in the rust, we just went ahead and did it. And just like the front, we just get a little bit more hot orange on there. Again, I let a little bit of the rust and then the black, because that gives you that shading. And then more of the hot orange right through the middle. Okay, so that's our blood stains. We'll get those when we get to the red. Next, we're going to use our OS 438 orange peel, and we just need a little drop of that as well. And we're going to lighten up our vest a little bit, like the light is shining on it. So again, I use my same dirty brush and brush it out. Kind of work that color up in there. And now we'll come right through the center with our little strokes. So we'll leave a little bit of the orange peel and a little bit of the rust in our black. But we're going to put our, so we're leaving the hot orange and the rust and the black, and we're coming with our orange peel just to highlight kind of right down the center of our vest, like the light was shining on there, and that would make it brighter. And you can turn him. So I'm going to come right along the front edge because the light would be hitting that, but then as it comes under the arm, we'll let some of the rust and the orange peel, not the orange peel, the hot orange. We're putting the orange peel on as our highlight, so that's coming along the edge. Too many oranges. So you can see how this has a nice highlight compared to this side. So if you don't like it highlighted that much, you wouldn't have to use the orange peel. It's kind of like the moon is shining on it and lighting it up a little bit right along from the center out to the edge. And we'll do the same on this side. Again, right along the edge, across his pocket. And then I want more in the center and then less as I get to where the arm meets the vest, because that'll give us shading. But the light would be hitting the main front part of the vest here, and then the arm would be shading the under part of the vest, underneath the arms there. So we'll grab a little more, work our way around to the back. So we would think that this light would be hitting this middle part, and then less as we go towards the arms and less as we go towards the neck. So I will start in the center and then just work my way out. A lot of light would probably be hitting the bottom of the vest here. And then less light as it comes up to the neck, because the neck and the arms are going to shade it. So we're just going to slowly get less of the orange peel on there. We'll go across our seams here. And then this arm is going to be shading this, the neck is going to be shading that, and this arm will be shading that. So we don't want to get rid of all of our hot orange and our rust. We just want to use that orange peel right through the center for our highlighting. So I'm just brushing real light, just covering it up a little bit at a time here. And just getting less and less orange peel as I get towards the body and the bandages. And more orange peel in the center here where the light would really be hitting it. And we'll come back to the front and do just a little bit more right through the main, kind of right through the center of those front vest. And we'll do the other side a little bit. Again, just where that light would be hitting it the most. Just a little bit under the arm there, not a whole lot because the arm would be shading it. And then back around to our center in the back. Just doing those little C strokes, building up that color right through the center. So you can see we have nice shading. We have our orange peel, then we have our hot orange, our rust, and our black. Okay, just a little more here in the center. So we don't have hardly any black coming through our orange part of our vest. It's mainly in our crevices and any indents that the piece has. So there we go. We got our vest all cute. So now we can go back and do our blood if you wanted that. So I used the Duncan OS 438 Real Red, and we'll give that a little shake. And I'm going to use my same dirty brush, and we just need a drop. The red is in this oranges family, so we'll just grab some of the red and brush it out here and work it into our brush. And now you can go right over your little rust spots that we added for our blood. And we'll give it a couple layers of it to build up that red. And I kind of have it more deeper, stronger in the center of each spot, and then lighter as it goes out, kind of like the bleeding out into the bandage. So now my first one is dried, so we'll come back and get a little more in the center there. And the same with his little foot here. And over here. And a little more on the back one. And come back and get a little more in the very center of each one. That way it's just like if you had a wound, it would be darker red in the center where it was bleeding and lighter as it got out to the outside part. Okay, so we have that done. So now we can go to his eyes. And for the eyes, I'm going to paint them in with our black. Let's see, I didn't grab black. Black brown. So I have our OS 476 black, and we'll just get a little pile of that. And then I'm going to use my my little liner brush here. And I'll actually use the one that was our gift in our July box. It's our Artist Paintbrush size 5.0 detail liner. And I do like to dip into my water and add a drop of that to my paint, and then swirl that around so it's in a corner of it, it's more inky like, it'll flow better. And then I just draw my brush through it and load it up. So now we're going to paint the eyes. So to paint the eyes, you want to anchor your non-painting hand on the table and anchor your piece in your hand, and then your painting hand you're going to want to anchor on your piece somewhere that's comfortable for you. And we're just going to outline the indent of our eyes here. And we're going to turn him. So part of this eye is actually covered up with a bandage, so we'll have to kind of adjust the eye. Usually I do the black from the 1 o'clock to the 11 o'clock area, so we'll still try to kind of do that. We don't worry about the center part of the eye, we're just worrying about the outside line. We want that to be nice and straight. And we'll fill in the inner part with our colors as we keep going here. So we'll leave that center, don't worry about that. Again, I have my hand anchored on the table, my piece is anchored in my hand, and my painting hand is anchored on my piece. So I start away from the outside edge and gradually work over towards the outside line. That way I can see where my black is going. And you need to turn him. Again, I'm using my 5-0 liner. It's a detail liner, it's not a script liner, so it has shorter hairs. I'm just worrying about my outside line of my eye. I want that to be nice. I'm not worried about the inside line. That can look ugly because the blue and the white are going to cover that up. So there we have his eye lined out, and our paint is painted out, so it's nice and smooth. I'm going to wash out my brush, dab it on my paper towel. Now we're going to go to our white. We're going to go to OS 431 white, and you want to make sure your black is dry. Again, I'm going to dip my paint and my brush in my paint. I have a drop of water on the end of the brush. I'm just going to grab a little bit of my paint and swirl that around and get it a little bit thinner. If you were doing a bigger puddle or a bigger piece, you'd want to use a palette knife. You wouldn't want to use your brush to do that. Or if you have a brush that has an angle on the end, like the Royal Majestics have this angle, you can actually use that for your palette knife to stir up your paint. But this is such a small amount, it's okay. You shouldn't wreck your bristles in your brush. So we have that kind of inky so it flows better. So now we're going to do this from about the 10 o'clock, the white from about the 10 o'clock to the 2 o'clock position. We start on the inside and merge over to our black line and get our black line as thick or thin as we want it. And we don't worry about the inside of the eye, we're only worried about the outside where the white and the black meet. And we want to do about the bottom third of the eye in the white. And again, that non-painting hand is resting on the table, holding my piece securely, and my painting hand is resting on my piece. So I have a nice, even thickness white line on the outside of my eye. A lot of people will do that last. I find that hard to get that outside line equal on both eyes. So this is how I do it. I'm going to start at about 11 o'clock inside the eye and merge out towards my black line until I have it as thick of a black line as I want, and then I can draw down. And now I can paint that out so I don't have any rough spots or puddles. And we'll turn him around, and I can either start at the 11 and go the other way, or I can start off where I left off. And again, I'm going to worry about that black part, not the inner part of the eye. I just want to get my black line so both eyes are equal. So he's a little jagged here, so we're just going to straighten that out a little bit. And you can have thicker black lines or thicker or thinner, it's up to you. Again, I'm not worried about that inside, I'm just worried about where my white is. So because my white is thinned a little bit, I do need to go back and maybe give it a little extra white just to bring it a little bit stronger so I'm not seeing the black through it. And we'll do that on both sides. So again, I'm just worried about where the white is meeting the black, and I'm leaving an equal space of black around both eyes. So we have that, so I'm going to wash out my brush, pat it on my paper towel. I'm going to give him blue eyes, but you could give him green eyes, whatever you want, red eyes. So I have my OS 457 medium blue, and we'll get a drop of that. And again, I'm going to dip my brush in the water and just drop that into my paint puddle here and just make a little inky thin medium blue. Draw my brush through it to load it up. You want to make sure your white is dry. So now I want to leave a crescent shape to my bottom white part. So I'll start up at, because this eye is kind of covered, you kind of have to make adjustment to the whole eye shape. So usually it's a crescent moon shape, and we're missing that little corner there, so we're going to just start down further, where normally it would have started up further, like at 10 o'clock. And we'll bring this one over here to about 3 o'clock. And again, it's crescent shaped. I don't worry about the top part of that eye because we're going to fill that in with the black. You just get the blue, worrying about where the blue is meeting the white, so it's got a nice shape to it. And now we want to do the other side to match. We're going to start at about 9 o'clock. I start in the white and merge over to my black and draw down towards the white, focusing on a nice straight line, leaving a crescent shaped white. Bringing it over towards 3 o'clock, but now I ran out of paint in my brush, so I'll start on the other side and merge over to 3 o'clock and hook these two up and fill in some blue, but I don't worry about that whole top. I'm more worried about where the black or where the white and the blue meet. And I want to compare that from one eye to the other eye so that they're in the same spot. When I wash up my brush, I go into my black, and I need a little bit of water in there to thin that out a little bit. And I just dip the brush in the water and into the paint puddle and stir it up. So now we want to make a crescent shaped blue area, but again, part of this eye is covered up, so it's not going to be a real sharp crescent because some of it's covered up. And I'm just focusing on my blue part, and then I will fill in the top part. And now we want to go to the other eye and do the same thing. So we have the full eye over here. I will start in the white or around the 10 o'clock, 10:30 area, come over to the black part, come down to my blue and make my crescent shaped blue, coming over here to about 3 o'clock. Now I can fill in that top part with my black. And now I want to come to the other side and straighten that out. So I just worry about where the black and the blue is meeting each other so I can get that nice crescent shape. So we have our crescent shaped white part, and now we have our crescent shaped blue part. I want to compare my inside line, that they're both kind of in the same spot or the same area. And because part of his eye is covered, we're not going to worry about the outside being the same. So they look pretty good. So I'm going to wash out my black. I'm going to go into my water, thin out my white just a little bit. And I'm going to make sure my paint is dry. The one on the left is dry here, so I'm going to put my comma in each eye. And you just press down and draw it towards you and lift. Again, part of his eye is covered there on top. So we'll start right at where it begins. So this one we can start in the black, press down, draw it towards me and lift. And then you can dip the end of your brush in your paint and go straight down with it and put a nice white dot right at the top of that. I wouldn't do that on the other one because that eye is part of it's covered. Now if you really want to try, because it's such a little eye, you can get just a little bit of thin white paint in your brush. Put a little concave X in each corner. If you do it straight, like a straight X, it doesn't look as good as if you give it a little curve to it, because then that curve makes it look like it's round, like an eye is round. And then I usually put a little dot at the tip of each of those X's. Then you can let that dry. From there I would seal my piece with my matte sealer. And from there we will go to our gloss, brush on gloss sealer, and you'll have that in a little paint pot. And well, actually first you can take and touch up any little areas. So I do see that I have some orange on my bandages, so I'm going to go with my middle color gray and a little brush, and I'm just going to brush over that a little bit just to get rid of those my rust that I got on my bandages. So you can go back and touch that up. If it's more in the white, you'll have to go to the white and to probably the charcoal and then the white. But it was just those two areas, so that's good. So I would seal that with my matte sealer, spray it. Then you'll have a little bit of gloss sealer in a pot, and we'll use that to put on our glitter. And I'm just going to use my bottle. So I have my I'm going to use my little liner brush again, and I'm just going to dip in right in my cap, and I'm going to paint that brush on gloss sealer right on his pockets. Or you could use Elmer's glue that dries clear, but our subscribers will have the gloss sealer container in their boxes. So I'm just going to brush that on where I want my glitter to be. So you kind of want nice straight lines, because wherever the gloss sealer is where your glitter is going to stick. And then I did put it on where I wanted buttons, kind of little round circles. And I think I did about 4 of them. And you kind of want them even size. Then I did put like a little line where the buttonholes would be. And wash out your brush. Then you did have a container of the glitter. We used the copper colored glitter. And I like to put down a piece of paper towel or a paper plate, and you can shake your glitter onto your gloss sealer. So you'll have plenty left over because it only takes a drop. And then I just let that for a second, and then I tap it onto my paper towel, put that aside and give it a little blow. And then that takes off any excess glitter. Then you can take your, if you want your blood to look shiny and wet, you can take your gloss brush on sealer that we included in your subscription box and put that on the bloody areas, and it does go on white, but it will dry clear. So you can add that to your little blood spots. I usually do like 2 layers of it just to build it up and get it nice and shiny. So I would do it and then let it dry, and then later do the second layer. So wherever you put your brush on gloss sealer, that's going to look shiny and bloody and wet. You can also brush on your gloss sealer right onto your eyes. Make sure they're dry so you don't smear your paint. And that'll also make your eyes look like they're wet. So once that dries, it'll be clear, but they will be wet looking. We'll get a little bit on this one yet. And this is just our brush on gloss sealer. We do carry the full bottles, but you will have a little pot in your subscription box to finish off your piece. And then we had some blood back here, so we want to get that nice and shiny and wet looking too. And again, that does go on white, but it does dry clear fairly quickly. If you wait 10 or 15 minutes, you can go back and give it the second layer. So that is our mummy, and he's all complete. Here he is all dried. You can see it's got a little shiny look to it. Our glitter's on. So that's our mummy from our September Monster Mania box. Now this one is a little bit darker, so you could do more white if you wanted. It's totally up to you. But there you go.